Yumenglong. Suspect revealed the reason why they did it to him. Jealousy? The courtroom was silent, heavy with an air so thick it felt like it could choke anyone who dared to breathe too loudly. Reporters' pens hovered over paper, cameras clicked with restrained urgency, and fans outside the courthouse held banners soaked in tears. At the center of it all stood the suspect who had long been whispered about in dark corners, now finally breaking their silence. And when the words fell from their trembling lips, the entire nation gasped in horror. "We did it because of jealousy." Those 6 words crashed through the silence like thunder splitting the night sky. The confession that changed everything. The judge leaned forward, his gavel pausing midair as if even he couldn't believe what he had just heard. For months, the yumenglong case had been tangled in theories, money, betrayal, power games, conspiracies stretching into billion-dollar empires. But this raw, primitive confession that the motive was nothing more than jealousy, it was almost too much to bear. The suspect's eyes darted around the courtroom, sweat dripping from their temples, as if each sentence was dragged out of them against their will. He had everything: the fans, the fame, the love, the respect. Everywhere we went, it was always yumenglong, yumenglong, yumenglong. Do you know what it feels like to stand in his shadow? To work twice as hard and never be seen? That's why we... They broke down into sobs before finishing the sentence, but the meaning was clear. The courtroom erupted in shock. Some reporters shouted questions, others buried their faces in their hands, unable to process the cruelty behind the truth. The scene inside the courtroom. Every detail from that moment painted an unforgettable scene. Yumenglong's mother sat in the front row, her face pale but her eyes blazing with pain. She clutched a photo of her son, whispering words that only she could hear. Behind her, friends and fellow actors like Soo Kai and Tan Songyun wiped their tears in disbelief, their bodies trembling as though struck by lightning. Meanwhile, outside, the crowd pressed harder against the barricades as the news spread like wildfire. Fans screamed, some collapsing to their knees, crying out, "How could jealousy take him away from us?" Others chanted Yumenglong's name louder and louder, as if hoping their collective voice might resurrect him from the grave. The flashback that haunted everyone. To strengthen their claim, investigators revealed chilling reenactments captured from testimonies and CCTV fragments. The suspect had followed yumenglong closely during his last days, watching every move with eyes poisoned by envy. At parties, when you entered the room, people flocked to him. On set, directors leaned toward him, captivated by his charisma. And in private gatherings, fans somehow always discovered his presence, leaving others invisible. One witness recalled a night at a private dinner. The suspect was there too, but everyone only wanted pictures with you. I saw the suspect clench their fists so hard the knuckles turned white. They smiled, but their eyes looked like they wanted to set him on fire. That buried rage, the investigators argued, was the seed of the tragedy. A twist that left fans trembling. But then came another revelation. Jealousy wasn't just professional. It was personal. The prosecutor held up a stack of letters, private exchanges revealing that the suspect had once been in love with the same person who adored yumenglong. Whether it was a fan, a colleague, or someone behind the curtains of fame, one truth became undeniable. You had unknowingly stepped into the heart of their obsession. "He stole the only love I ever had," the suspect cried, their voice echoing through the chamber. It wasn't enough that he stole the spotlight, he had to take them too. I couldn't stand it anymore. The audience gasped collectively, and Yu's closest friends buried their faces in their palms. The case had taken yet another gut-wrenching turn. Rage in the streets. As the confession played across every news channel, the streets of Beijing, Shanghai, and Urumqi flooded with protests. Fans carried candles, their tears glistening under city lights. Others stormed the social media platforms, turning hashtags like #JusticeForYumenglong and #JealousyKilledHim into global trends. Some fans screamed at the television cameras. "Jealousy is never an excuse. How dare you take him away from us for something so shallow?" Others whispered to one another, "This is worse than we imagined." Fame, love, envy, it all consumed him. Even psychologists began weighing in, dissecting the corrosive power of jealousy in the entertainment world. This case will become a tragic example in history, one expert said. A reminder that envy, left unchecked, can devour everything, even life itself. Yumenglong's legacy amid the storm. As the suspect wept in chains, Yumenglong's legacy shone brighter. Fans shared his old interviews, where he once humbly said, "Fame is never mine alone. It belongs to the fans, to the people who believe in me." Those words now carried an eerie weight, as though he had unknowingly predicted his own downfall at the hands of those who refused to share that spotlight. Memorials grew larger across cities, filled with flowers, handwritten letters, and portraits of him smiling. His songs played on repeat, echoing through subway stations and shopping malls. And as the truth of jealousy unraveled, fans vowed never to let his memory be stained by those who envied him. The closing scene. Back in the courtroom, the judge finally struck his gavel, the sound thundering across the chamber. The suspect's fate was sealed, but the pain of their confession lingered in every heart. Yumenglong's mother stood, her tears streaming freely. She raised the photo of her son high into the air, her voice breaking but powerful. "They killed you because they couldn't shine. But, my son, you will shine forever." The chamber fell silent, then erupted into sobs. Some cried quietly, others wailed so loud it echoed down the marble hallways. Outside, fans lifted candles higher, and the world watched as the truth of jealousy etched itself into the tragic history of Yumenglong's death. Conclusion. The case that had once been shrouded in theories of money, power, and manipulation now revealed its most horrifyingly human truth. Envy, raw and consuming, had destroyed a star beloved by millions. But the story doesn't end there. Because as long as Yumenglong's name is spoken, as long as his work lives on, his light will outshine the darkness of jealousy that tried to snuff it out. And so the question remains, was it truly worth it for them? A career destroyed, a life taken, and a legacy made immortal in tragedy. Yumenglong's name, whispered through tears and screams, will forever remind the world of the fatal cost of envy. The jealousy confession that shook the world. The words still hung in the air like smoke from a gunshot. We did it because of jealousy. It wasn't just a confession, it was an earthquake. It rattled the marble pillars of the courtroom, spilled into the veins of those who listened, and broke through the airwaves into millions of homes across China and beyond. The silence before the storm. For a moment, everything froze. The judge's hand hovered above his gavel. The defense attorney slumped into his chair, his papers scattering to the ground. Even the air seemed too heavy to breathe. In the gallery, people clutched their chests as though trying to steady hearts that suddenly beat out of rhythm. A woman gasped so loudly her voice echoed in the chamber. Another fainted and had to be carried out by security guards. The sound of reporters' camera shutters began like timid raindrops, click, 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 before swelling into a thunderstorm of flashes. Microphones leaned in, desperate to capture every word that would follow. And there, in the middle of it all, stood the suspect, their body trembling, their lips cracked and pale. The breakdown. "I couldn't take it anymore," the suspect muttered, gripping the witness stand so tightly their knuckles went ghost white. He was everywhere. He was everything. Do you know what it's like to wake up every day and hear his name, see his face, feel his shadow crushing you? Their voice cracked like shattered glass. He smiled, and the world bent for him. He spoke, and people listened. I wanted that. I wanted to be seen too. But no matter what I did, no matter how hard I worked, it was always him. Gasps filled the chamber. Some clutched their mouths to stop themselves from screaming. Others shook their heads, whispering, "This can't be real. This can't be happening." The suspect's tears flowed, but there was no sympathy in the room. Their sobs sounded like the cries of a child, but the world only saw the monster they had confessed to being. The mother's agony. At the front row sat Yumenglong's mother, her body stiff as though made of stone, but her eyes, red, swollen, and glassy, betrayed the ocean of pain inside her. She gripped a photo of her son, his smile frozen in time, and with each word of the confession, she rocked slightly back and forth. At one point, she whispered, "Why? Why my son?" so softly it was almost lost in the noise. But when the suspect shouted, "Because I hated him for being loved," her whisper turned into a wail. She stood suddenly, her body trembling. The guards moved to steady her, but she pushed them aside, raising her trembling finger at the suspect. "You destroyed him," she cried. "You took away the only light in my life because you were blind to your own. Do you think this is justice? Do you think this is fair? My son never hurt you, never mocked you, never tried to take anything from you, yet you killed him for existing, for shining too brightly, for being loved." Her cries pierced the courtroom, and even the judge's eyes glistened with restrained tears. The friends in shock. Behind her sat Su Kai and Tan Songyun, their hands clasped together, their faces pale with grief. Su Kai, usually so composed, buried his face in his hands, his shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Tan Songyun's tears streamed down her face, her lips quivering as she whispered to herself, "It wasn't supposed to be like this. Not like this." Other colleagues who had worked with Yumenglong sat in stunned silence. Some muttered prayers, others simply stared at the suspect as if trying to burn their face into memory, branding them as the villain of their nightmares. The crowd outside, the confession, broadcast live, spilled into the streets like wildfire. Outside the courthouse, thousands had gathered, holding banners, flowers, and photos of Yumenglong. When the words, "because of jealousy," reached the crowd, chaos erupted. Some fans screamed in anger, their voices raw and filled with fury. Others collapsed to the ground, sobbing uncontrollably, clutching candles, and crying out Yu's name. One young fan screamed into the cameras, "Jealousy? That's all? You killed him because of jealousy? He gave us love, he gave us joy, and you took him away for something so stupid, so selfish." Social media exploded. Hashtags like #JealousyKilledYumenglong and #JusticeForYumenglong instantly trending worldwide. Videos of fans collapsing in grief, parents hugging their crying children, and even strangers holding hands in mourning flooded every platform. The suspect's outburst. But the suspect wasn't done. They slammed their fists against the stand, their voice rising to a scream. "You don't understand. He took everything from me, without even trying. People loved him without effort, while I had to bleed for scraps of attention." Their words rang through the chamber like a curse. The prosecutor stepped forward, his voice sharp and cold. "And so you thought the solution was to take his life? To silence his light because it made your darkness unbearable? That is not justice. That is evil." The suspect collapsed back into their chair, sobbing uncontrollably, but no one moved to comfort them. The courtroom had no sympathy left. The judge speaks. When order was finally restored, the judge leaned forward, his voice heavy with the weight of the moment. "I have presided over countless cases, but never have I witnessed a motive so senseless, so poisonous. Jealousy, this ancient monster of the human heart, has stolen from us a young man who only ever sought to bring joy to others. You have confessed, and in doing so, you have revealed a darkness that must never be forgotten." The sound of his gavel striking the bench echoed like thunder, sealing the moment into history. A nation in mourning. The confession spread across the nation like a shadow. Schools held vigils, fans lit candles in every major city, and even strangers stopped in the streets to cry together. In Urumqi, Yumenglong's hometown, his childhood friends gathered at his old school, laying flowers at the gates. A teacher who once guided him whispered, "Even as a boy, he had a light about him." And now, to know that light was taken because someone couldn't bear to see it shine, it is unbearable. The closing image. Back in the courtroom, Yumenglong's mother raised the photo of her son once more. Her tears dripped onto the frame, but her voice was steady now, filled with a strength born of grief. "You thought jealousy could kill him," she said, her voice trembling but resolute. "But look around you. Do you see? He lives in every tear, in every cry, in every voice demanding justice. You will fade into darkness, but my sun will shine forever. The entire courtroom fell silent. Even the suspect bowed their head, unable to meet her eyes. And as the cameras captured that image, the grieving mother holding her son's photo high against the storm, the world knew Yumenglong's light would never die, no matter how deep the jealousy that tried to extinguish it.